of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning and welcome to our Tuesday morning meeting, September 24th. My name is Andy Hunthausen. To my left, Commissioner Tom Rolfe.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning. To his left, Brandi Spangler. She'll be taking care of us today. Greg McNally, Director of Planning and Community Development. To my right, Commissioner Candace Payne.
Morning.
Morning. Nico Hash, Deputy County Attorney. Good morning. And Roger Baltz, our Chief Administrative Officer. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. There is a sign-in sheet in the front as well as agendas. Please sign in prior to leaving today so we have a good record of who's attended our meeting. And we'll start with consent action items. Mr. Baltz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Item 2A on your agenda contains these items. The first one is item 2A, public meeting minutes for August 29, September 10, and 17, 2024, and staff recommends approval of that item. The next item is item 2B, and that's Resolution 2024-107, declaring county property to be surplus property, and staff recommends approval of that item as well. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you very much. Any questions, Commissioners? How about public comment on the consent action items? Any public comment? Hearing no public comment, is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I would move that we accept consent action items 2A and B as explained by Mr. Baltz.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent action items as presented. Further discussion, Commissioners? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is a request to proceed with modification of condition of approval for the Wordsmith subdivision. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Rachel Ward with Community Development and Planning. Before you is the fourth and final request from Mr. Kim Smith to proceed with the request to modify condition of approval number 6B of the Wordsmith subdivision. You may remember last Thursday that the Wordsmith subdivision is one of four major subdivisions that were preliminarily approved on November 24th, 2020. It was granted a 3-year extension to November 24th of 2026. All four of those subdivisions utilize a interconnected road network, and all four of those subdivisions include a condition number 6B, which required that Espelin Drive approach with Canyon Ferry Road be widened to a 3-lane approach. Give me a second, I can pull up a map here. On July 10th of this year, the applicant received comments from MDT that they would like to see this approach remain as a 2-lane approach rather than be widened to 3-lane, which is why Mr. Smith is requesting that this condition of approval be modified. So just as a reminder, the subdivision regulations do outline that there's a 2-step process for modifying conditions of approval. The first step is optional, and it's at that first optional step that we're at right now, which is Mr. Smith just simply requesting that he be allowed to move forward with reviewing that modification of condition of approval. So yeah, I will pull this up here real quick, but if you have any questions of me, I'm happy to answer any.
Great. Any questions, Commissioners?
The meeting with Mr. Smith was fairly recent, so I know what's going on here.
Okay, excellent.
I'll ask a question while you're
For sure.
just because it's similar to one I asked last Thursday, but we might have a new audience on TV or maybe listening later. But each one of these, and there's 4, this is one of 4, this is for Wordsmith subdivision, have an entrance onto Canyon Ferry Road. I'm just kind of restating this. That entrance was planned with a 3-lane capacity to turn left, right, and an entrance. But MDT gave us and Mr. Smith comments saying that they recommend just a 2-lane entrance typical entrance. And that's what they would prefer coming onto their infrastructure. And it is their approach that we're kind of requesting access to, or Mr. Smith's requesting access to. So this is just a change to have permission to propose changes that would allow for that access modification, correct?
Mr. Chair, that's correct. And I would say that this is new information. MDT's comments per se that they would like to see this approach remain as a two-lane
Right.
approach. When the subdivision went through preliminary plat approval, MDT was one of those agencies that agency requests for agency comments were sent out to, but at that time they didn't have any comments relating to this. We did receive a comment from Dan Carlin, who said, I think for alignment purposes, it would be best to have this as a 3-lane approach. But it's these comments that we received this year on July 10th, MDT saying, based on our current analysis, I think this 2-lane approach would be better suited for this approach. And so that's why right now they're requesting that condition of approval.
Well, and it makes sense to have this, what's in our proposed subdivision proposal to be congruent with MDT's wishes, because ultimately we're asking for use of their access to their right of way.
This is correct.
So, okay. Makes total sense. All right, commissioners, any further questions?
And
Okay, how about public comment on this item? Any public comment? Any public comment? All right, hearing none. Commissioners, is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve, there it is, the request to proceed with modification of condition of approval for the Wordsmith subdivision as presented by Rachel Ward.
second, Mr. Chair.
Moved and seconded to approve the request to proceed as presented. Further discussion, commissioners? Thanks for bringing these forward. And your fill-in did pretty well last Thursday. So you trained him well. Good job. All right, commissioners. With that, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda, elections update. We have Mr. Fitzpatrick with us today. Welcome, sir. If you'd introduce yourself for the record, just tell us how things are going.
Connor Fitzpatrick, Lewis and Clark County Elections Division Supervisor. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, so far on our end, things are going pretty well. I'll kind of split this into 2 halves, starting first half with Secretary of State's side to address the, I suppose, elephant in the room, so to speak. On Friday, ballots for our Okava voters, our overseas military and civilian voters went out. Those voters can choose to either receive an email ballot or a ballot mailed to them per federal rule. So obviously the ones that mailed out, no problem there. They're well on their way. But then Secretary of State's office had a small hitch with the email ballots. That part of the program is overseen by them rather than by us. So it turns out that there were selections missing for some voters in the state. Lewis and Clark County was not affected by these selections missing, but of course it made the news nonetheless. And of course it happened on Friday. So that means some people gave it legs and it ran over the weekend. So everything is, I am assured by SOS, fixed at this moment, that all voters who are receiving an email ballot are receiving all the selections. So there's nothing crazy going on there, just a human error. Unfortunately, quite a large human error, but it's a large election. So any human error is bound to have ripple effects, unfortunately. So on the county side, we are proceeding apace with everything. We are currently working on our absentee ballots. Those are getting mailed out October 11th. So for any voter that wishes to receive an absentee ballot, this is more directed at the people at home real quick, get your registration checked on and up to date because October 8th is when late registration starts. And when late registration starts, you have to appear in person at the county elections office to receive your ballot and conduct any updates. Up until that point, we can receive updates via mail, email, or in person. So feel free to send those our way as soon as possible. Otherwise, like I said, those will go out October 11th. The Helena Post Office is pretty darn good about getting those out to people by the next day. Very thankful that they can accomplish that for us. So keep an eye out for ballots on October 12th, hitting your mailboxes if you're an absentee voter. If you're a polling place voter, we'll see you on November 5th at your polling place. And then, of course, we will have, I think I had one more thing I wanted to mention. Of course, we will also have our post-election audit and canvas to double check everything within the couple of weeks after Election Day. We're looking to post that as we get closer. So if you have any questions about anything that you're seeing in the world, feel free to reach out to your local elections office, whether that be the Missoula elections office, Yellowstone County elections office. Talk with your local people. They are in the know as it is their day job. So if you folks have any questions here, more than happy to answer them. Otherwise, if the public has any questions, can contact our office at 406-447-8339, and we'd be happy to help you out.
Mr. Fitzpatrick, there's also quite a bit of information on the website.
Yes, indeed, Commissioner. That is correct. We have done a little bit of rearranging on the website. Thank you to Miss Betsy Kirkaby, who has helped us with that. It looks a lot nicer than when I started. It was a little chaotic initially. So I'm glad it's looking a lot better. Everything's nicely organized. So there is a fair bit of information out there as well.
Great. Thank you very much. Questions, commissioners? Comments for Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Just a comment. I just really appreciate the thoroughness with which you approach your job. I know we've talked to several people that had questions about voters and whether people are eligible to vote and whatnot. And you bent over backwards trying to make sure that the questions are answered and solve any problems that existed. And I really appreciate your attitude.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Rolfe, thank you. Yeah, the democracy is kind of a passion of mine, you know, people ruling the people, like, yeah, let's go. This is fantastic. So always happy to try and explain the myriad of processes that go into elections and try to make sure that we're all on the same page in society here. I know it's a tall order, but we're going to try anyway, darn it.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner, please.
You said that we've got the elections webpage and everybody can look at that. Okay. I'm a Neanderthal. I have a little trouble finding things. So do I go to Lewis and Clark County's main website, or do I just type in Helena Elections Office in my Google, or how do I get there?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Payne, there are a couple of ways that you can get to the county elections page. Usually what I do is, since I have the county homepage bookmarked, I go to that, and then about a quarter down the page on the right-hand side is a big button that says voter info. That'll take you right to the elections homepage. You can also, of course, Google Lewis and Clark County elections, and should be the first result that Google gives you, should be ours. lccountymt.gov is the website itself, and if I remember correctly, it's /elections for us, if I'm, again, remembering correctly.
No, I like the button idea. Thank you.
It's real nice.
So, Mr. Fitzpatrick, one more question. There's a page, or if I'm wondering if I'm all up to snuff, my voter page, describe that. There's
Absolutely. Mr. Chair, the page you're thinking of is the My Voter page. It's hosted by Secretary of State's website. If you put in your first name, last name, and date of birth that you're registered under or should be registered under, it should bring up your record. If it doesn't, then you're probably not registered with us, or your registration's been canceled, in which case contact the elections office. The system also does have a dislike of last names with a special character in it. So if you're having problems searching for a hyphenated last name, for example, try it without the hyphen or without the space. And if you're still having issues, just give our office a call. But other than that, that will show your registration status, whether your absentee ballot has been sent or not when we get closer to that date, whether it's been received or not once we start receiving it back here in the office. And then, of course, if you're a polling place voter, where your polling place is.
Great. And I can still register. If I haven't registered to vote, I can still do it, right? And I can do it all the way till when, and how do I do that?
Mr. Chair, for registering to vote, up until October 7th is the end of regular registration, so that you can send in your registration to us or drop it by in person. We're always happy to see people. But then starting October 8th, any registration changes have to be done in person. Now, if you're a brand new registrant, you can register all the way up to election day itself. We got to have you in line at our office at least by 8 p.m. on election night. But there's a brief break the Monday before election day from noon to 5 for us to print supplemental registers to make sure everything information-wise is updated for the polls as well. So there is that brief break, but otherwise, same-day registration is still currently allowed in Montana.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other questions, commissioners? I really appreciate you coming and giving an update for folks. And one more time, your phone number.
Our office phone number, Mr. Chair, 406-447-8339.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate you being here today. Is there any public comment related to this update, elections update? Any public comment? Okay, seeing no public come forward. Thank you very much, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Thank you,
else?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Yeah. All right. Great. On we go. Next item on the agenda is amendment to the county's fiscal year 2025 budget. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Chairman. Today we have before you is a request for a budget amendment in the, oh, first of all, I'm Frank Cornwell, CFO of the county. Sorry about that. We have as I was saying, we have a request for a budget amendment in the Capital Development Fund 550. The amendment is to authorize budget authority in the amount of $55,000 from the Criminal Justice Capital Fund. The Criminal Justice Services Department presented a purchase in their fiscal year 25 budget presentation. However, it wasn't entered in. That was an oversight. But we got it, so because of that oversight, we need to get an amendment on there because this is a capital project, or capital expenditure. So per MCA 7-6-4301, a public hearing is required for an overall increase in appropriation authority because this is an increase over what was authorized in the fiscal year 25 budget. A budget public hearing is required. The public hearing was advertised for 2 weeks in the Helena IR, and staff recommends the approval of the budget amendment and is available for questions. Director McBride is here if you have any questions on the purchase itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Stay right there for a second, Mr. Cornwell. Just a couple of questions. So just to clarify or restate this again, this expenditure was contemplated in the budget process. We talked about it. It was presented in the budget process, but inadvertently left out of the final budget document or the approval. And so in order to change or add expenditures to our budget that we've already passed, we have to go through this process of having a public hearing, passing a resolution to amend the budget, correct?
Correct.
To simplify?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Absolutely. And it
Thank
kind of in a weird way shows that, when we don't have things approved and they go to buy them, the authority's not there. We have internal controls in place that show that, they're going to come back and make sure that they get that authority as required.
It is. It's a great example that only things that have been passed in the budget have the authority to be purchased or just money to be spent on that kind of thing. So if something else comes forward, we have to go through this process. I appreciate you bringing this forward. Commissioners, is there a question?
No questions.
Okay. All right. How about public comment on this item? Any public comment? Any public comment? All right. Hearing none. Commissioners, is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the budget amendment to the county's fiscal year 2025 budget as explained by Mr. Cornwell.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the budget amendment as presented. Further discussion, commissioners? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you very much. All right. We are at that time in the meeting where we will take public comment on any item that is under the jurisdiction of the commission, but not on today's agenda. Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Hearing none? Commissioners, thank you very much. We will stand adjourned.